Good morning. I am 5 minutes earlier today, so if you're watching and recording, you're welcome to fast forward 5 minutes or stay with us as we say hello. I need to be in town early today, so this is where we're going to do our practice. Unfortunately, I forgot my stand for the phone, so I'll have to keep it in my hand, but it's okay, I can do it. Good morning, Yanni. So let's see how I can position myself. Good morning, Michael. Yeah, maybe I'll just have this view for today. This is the easiest for me to hold. Or maybe the ocean. I can't tag anybody because I don't have my computer. Good morning, Cindy. Good morning, Gina. All right, it is time for us to start. Yesterday, we touched on the feelings of disappointment when they sometimes show up as an unwelcome consequence of blind admiration and reverence. And in the next few days, I want to take a deeper look at the experiences of disappointment and regret. Of course, they can range from mild discomfort or really deep hurt. Brené Brown writes, "In my experience as a researcher and a human being, we underestimate, both in terms of the disconnection and pain they can cause within us and in our relationships." So we underestimate both disappointment and regret because we're kind of used to it, right? We get disappointed pretty much on a daily basis in small ways and big ways. And so, how to train ourselves to be more content with everything there is, to be more accepting. Thankfully, there are tools and practices that can help us better understand what's behind these experiences and how to better set ourselves up for less hurt when possible. There are many definitions of disappointment, but simply put, it is about unmet expectations. The more significant the expectations, the more significant the disappointment. Again, Brené Brown talks about two categories of expectations. The first one is unexamined and unexpressed expectations. She also calls these stealth expectations. And the second category is examined and expressed expectations. Obviously, a much healthier choice. We are constantly, both consciously and unconsciously, setting expectations of ourselves and the people in our lives. And the unconscious, unexamined, unexpressed expectations are the most dangerous and often turn into deep, deep disappointment that hurts. Sadly, research shows that disappointment is one of the most frequently experienced emotions, and it tends to be experienced at high level of intensity. When we develop expectations, we paint a picture in our head of how things are going to be and how they're going to look and feel. And that picture we paint in our mind holds such great value for us. We set our expectations based not only on how we fit in that picture, but also we include those around us. And kind of in this movie, we assign roles to them without asking them really. And this means that our expectations are often set on outcomes that are totally beyond our control, like what other people think, what they feel, how they're going to react. But this movie in our head is so wonderful, and yet no one else knows what their part is, what their lines are, and what it means to us, their participation. And of course, when this wonderful movie fails to play out the way we expected, we feel disappointed. And sometimes our disappointment is so severe that it actually brings shame, anger, and hurt to us. Researchers explain that we come away from the experience of disappointment feeling bad about ourselves and the other person. Our negativity is tinged with astonishment and surprise, and at the same time, we're trying to forgive, we're concealing our emotions, we're trying to think positively, urging ourselves to move on. It's a really complex experience, and it's quite exhausting and requires a huge emotional bandwidth. There are many examples of unexpressed expectations. I'm sure you all have them now that we're talking about it. The bottom line is that in order to set ourselves up for success, we need to talk openly about our expectations. And when someone shares their hopes and dreams with us, we are witnessing deep courage and vulnerability. Celebrating each other's successes is easy, but when disappointment happens, it's actually an incredible opportunity for us to create deep, meaningful connections. So even if you're disappointed in someone, or not even, when you're disappointed in someone, it's really healthy to talk about it with this person. Healthy both for you and your relationship. And here's an interesting question, food for thought really. If you are not openly asking for what's important to you, thinking that the other person needs to be able, the other person is able to read your mind, is it because you don't think you're worth it? If you're not openly asking for what's important to you, if you hope that the other person is just going to read your mind, is it because you secretly think you are not really worth it? Just something to examine. Anyway, let's explore this together. As always, take a comfortable position and take a few moments to settle. Notice all the circumstances of your practice today. Notice your breath. Let your breath be easy and comfortable. Don't try to control it. I want to continue to dedicate the energy from our practice to John Scott, who's going in for some stent procedure. And of course, you can include whoever else in your life that needs support, a little bit more love, a little bit more care. Just trust that the energy that you generate, that we together generate in this practice, will reach the recipient. Now bring to mind last time you felt disappointed. And as you reflect on that, acknowledge your thought process. Notice how you're feeling in your body. As always, as you examine how the disappointment feels in your body, notice the actual physical sensations and explore if this disappointment that you are thinking of can be expressed as a pose or a movement. What would it look like? Can you actually do it now? Don't just think about it. Being brutally honest with yourself, acknowledge the source of your disappointment. Is it by any chance related to an expectation that you never voiced? If that's the case, consider why you never expressed your needs around the subject. Can you be brave and get vulnerable about it? And if you actually did express your expectations and they were not met, can you be brave and vulnerable and talk about that? And if there is no point to bring up this experience with the person involved anymore, can you set an intention to openly talk about your expectations and about your disappointments next time? And as you set your intentions to do this, how are you beginning to feel? Is anything changing for you physically, emotionally, mentally? Perhaps there is a certain openness, softness, more space. Or maybe there is none of that. Obviously, whatever you're feeling is totally fine. Own it. As always, we're just exploring what's possible. There is no way to do this wrong. As you go through your day today, I invite you to notice when you get disappointed. Take a pause and examine your disappointment. Are you frustrated because the other person failed to read your mind and act according to your unexpressed expectations? Or did you express your expectations and they were not met anyway? Or maybe you didn't even know you had this expectation until you felt disappointed, which means there are some unconscious processes at play here. So examine what it is that comes up for you. And once you figure out the source of your disappointment, can you be brave and vulnerable and talk about it openly with a person you're frustrated with? Thank you so much for being here. Have a beautiful day. And I will see you tomorrow.